One of the terms I cannot stand using towards these folks is the term radical, because there's nothing radical about them. Nothing. In order to be radical, man, you have to be rooted in something. That's what radical means, rooted.
Thanks for coming on the channel, man. I've been a fan of yours for a while, like one of the first Black conservative YouTubers I found, man. And what I really like about your take on things is very unique compared to like other Black conservatives. You always just come with a twist. So, man, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Right, man. Well, thank you, thank you. Well, I'm AlfonZo, man. I go by Zo for short. And yeah, man, I've been doing these videos. I started on MySpace. That's where I started. And I was on there for about a year, and a following started developing, man. And you know, folks said, hey, man, why don't you try out that YouTube channel? So that was like back in like 2007, and I moved it over there to 2008. And yeah, I started doing this stuff under Macho Sauce Productions, man. And then I got on into PJTV, and PJTV started publishing my stuff, and I did that for about 7 years. So yeah, now I do this stuff as the Zoloft, my place for chuckle therapy.
Nice. Yeah, I think I saw one of your videos. I think you were giving like a speech at maybe like a Tea Party event. Was that you? I'm pretty sure I saw you giving some kind of speech at the Tea Party thing. Like maybe it was back in 09 or whenever that was big during Obama years.
No, that couldn't have been me, man. Because you know them Tea Party folks, man. They'll tar and feather you and drag you out and hang you and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, that's the rumor. No, that was probably
right.
Yeah, I was there, man. It might have been me.
Yeah, I figured it was either you or all Black folks look alike. You know, one of the two things gotta be true.
Right.
Oh man.
Did whoever it was, did they have a hat on? You know, because I always wear my hat to hide my peanut head, man. So if they had a hat on and, you know, cocked to the side or something like that, people say your hat's on crooked. It's like, no, it's not. It leans to the right.
Oh man, so you're out there in California, huh?
Yeah, man, I'm out here in California, some people like to call it, or you know, what have you. And I know, man, I know people be thinking like, man, you crazy to live in California. It's like, hey, the crazy is spreading to y'all states too. It's like, I see these different states, man, where they be all red leaning and stuff like that. And it's like, man, I'm seeing some craziness, you know, take a foot, you know, hold there too. But yeah, we're here in California, man.
Now, are you in Northern or Southern Cali?
I think the less crazy part. No, we're here in Southern California.
Okay, yeah. I figured Northern California, that's like the blueprint for what they want the rest of the country to be. Like, if we could all just be as progressive as San Francisco, America could be a better place, you know, where Democrats just have a super majority and there's no Republicans around to mess things up. We'll be good, right?
I guess so, man. It yeah, the blueprint for yeah. Whatever their perfect world looks like, man, it's like doodle on the sidewalk crazy. That's that's you know, their whole ideologies, man, is about as progressive as cancer. And you know, but yeah, you're right, man. It's that's what they want. For some reason, that is the ideal worldview. People like being able to sit in front of your business and shoot up and leave their needles and pee and poop on the sidewalk along with their pets. And yeah, that's making America great again, I guess.
What do you think this liberal mindset comes from? Like, how come it is always evolving and getting more radical by the day? It seems like every day it's like, well, we're not progressive enough, so now this is also a gender, and you know, let's lower this age to this. And you know, what do you think that is rooted in? Where's that come from?
The simple answer?
Yeah.
The devil. That's where this is the simple answer, man. And I probably have to explain myself. You know, but for real, you know, when you try to cut it down, man, I mean, really, I'm pretty sure you see it too. When you examine what it is that they're doing, and you're like, here is the reason that you guys, for some reason, just aren't getting. I mean, this is like really the 2 + 2 = 4 kind of thing, and it really, you don't see it. You start to wonder, man, that's like some supernaturally level stupid stuff, man. It's almost like, and don't get me wrong, man, because I hate to use the word stupid. I really do. I can't stand you know, describing people as stupid. But when you look at what they're doing, especially when they, you know, consider themselves highly educated people, they want to go to school, they want to get their degrees and stuff like that. And I'm like, how do you guys pass yourselves off as being so intelligent, but your worldview is so unredeeming, and it's just flat out foolish? How do you not see it? And because of these people, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, man, that's all the more reason why I believe in the Bible. Because I'm looking at the Bible, and the Bible has read y'all like from 1,000 years ago. And so what they're doing, and forgive me, man, because I don't want to sound like I'm like correcting or anything like that. One of the terms I cannot stand using towards these folks is the term radical, because there's nothing radical about them. Nothing. In order to be radical, man, you have to be rooted in something. That's what radical means, rooted. Even if it's in describing being extreme. The point of being a radical extremist is when you take extreme measures to return back to the state of the root. And these people, these Democrats, man, these leftists, they've never been radicals. But what they really are is rebels. That's what we called them in the Civil War. Why? Because they're rebellious to the Constitution. They talk about, even to this matter of fact, the video that I'm dropping today, man, on Matthew Cook. He's speaking the same language as the Democrats did from the 1800s. Democrats say today the Constitution needs a rewrite. Man, they've been saying that since the 1800s, and they did do a constitutional rewrite. They got the Constitution of the Confederate States, right? They got that, and then they're gonna try to admonish us for about democracy. And I'm like, you guys are not radical about anything. You're selfish. And selfishness has no core. It's a bottomless pit. You guys are rebel against the Constitution, and you're rebellious against the Word of God. And that's been one of my crusades, man, is to let people know. Remember who these people are. They're rebels. And when we call them radicals, man, we help to erase their history. That's why people can say that, well, the party switched sides. That's why we got to hold them accountable to it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, these are rebels. They're not radicals. Saul Alinsky, when he's talking about, and sorry if I'm going on the diatribe, man, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick, like with Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky, same thing. When he's talking about this rule for radicals, that's a lie in itself. I'm gonna dedicate this book to the first radical, Lucifer. Lucifer wasn't no radical. Lucifer was a rebel. There was nothing radical about him because he wasn't rooted in truth. He rebelled from truth. So, and then you have these people who are following along with this narrative of Saul Alinsky. These liberals thinking that they're radicals, they wear that as a badge of honor, and they don't even deserve it. The real radicals are those who stand by the Constitution. The real radicals are the ones who stand by the Word of God. Jesus, the original, the Word from the beginning, is the realest radical.
Whoo, that was like an outro right there. Damn, how do I follow that one up? No, that's good. That's good. No, you bring up some really good points, because when I think about the Democrat Party, the first thing that comes to mind is evil. Believe it or not. It's not even just because, oh, I'm a conservative, I'm on the other side, because I really don't believe in this whole false left-right paradigm. I always call it that. It's false. It's the illusion of choice that you're going to vote Democrat and get this, or you're going to vote Republican and get that, because the truth of the matter is there are some Republicans that support Democrat policies. It's interchangeable. It has nothing to do with the political party at the end of the day. It's deeply rooted in the ideology. And you hit the nail on the head when you said it's evil. It is Satan. That's what I think of when I think of like Democrat policies, the liberal ideology, and you can see it. It's so plain as day. And that's how I know it's all evil, because a lot of the people who are liberal are the most well-educated people. So that means they're basically the most deeply indoctrinated. If they can just reject all of the evil in line of their belief system, that essentially becomes their religion, right? Like for conservatives, I'm pretty sure you probably agree with this too. I don't look to politicians as moral figures. I see them as they're there to protect certain God-given rights, make sure that government doesn't grow too big. But at the end of the day, they're human beings. They're flawed. They're going to make mistakes. The left, on the other hand, they worship the holy shrine of figures like Obama. Like, oh, man, he's just so great. They herald them. They hold them up in high regard because they're, I guess, nihilistic. They just kind of see people as, figures that can bring about change. Like, look how they talk about Bernie Sanders. Like that. This is the whole reason why they support big government. Right. Because they think government is the solution. Like you look to government whenever there's something wrong. But myself, I'm sure you and many others who are rooted in Christianity and faith is you look within, you talk to God, right? It's all divine. you know,
Yep.
and I feel like that's why conservatives are happier people. They're more successful overall.
Mm,
And at the end of the day, they're on the right side of history. Like when kids 60, 70 years from now look back on this time,
mm.
they're going to clearly see like, okay, it was probably wrong to slaughter the unborn and have grown men dressed in drag read to children and dang, they should have kept America sovereign, assuming the left gets their way, right? Dang,
Right.
America was, you mean to tell me they had this country and there was a group of people that wanted to take all these things away? And now we have this? You get what I'm saying? So it's like they're on the wrong side of history. They always have been. And that's why it's so fun. For me personally, I love to call out the party switch myth. It's just so easy.
Right.
That's what they
Mhm.
always tell me when I go out as a black man with a MAGA hat on, and all of these white liberals come up to me and they're like shaming me, wagging their finger in my face. I think of Ruby Bridges, right?
Mm.
When they desegregated the schools and she was walking in and there was all these people just shouting and chanting like, that's in the history books. Did those people at the time know that they were on the wrong side of history? They
Huh.
didn't. Democrats of today are the same way. They come up and they shame people. Any black person, any person who they see themselves as superior over, they're like, you need to listen to me. You belong over here, and I'm
Mm.
going to make sure that you come back to my side. You're not
Yep.
allowed to think that, do that, support that person. And I just document it all. And I'm like, tell me again how the party switched, because I've been called every racist name you can imagine by white
Uh-huh.
Democrat voters.
Yep. Yep. I mean, we're talking about a party that, and they're good at it too, man. They're good at promoting that narrative. I mean, when you have a party that can convince people that a person can switch their sex, they can fool people into thinking that the parties can switch sides too. And the funny thing about the whole party switch is the people that they loft up there. They love people like Malcolm X, and I'm like, okay, well, if you guys think that the party switched, then when did that happen? Because Malcolm X himself was calling black folks out, for voting for Democrats and calling them a political chump and a traitor to their race before the so-called party switch. So when did this switch happen? And I try to tell my peeps, man, and I see the light go on, man. I see the light go on with them. It's like you say that there's a party switch. In order for you to say that there's a party switch, that means that you have that in itself is an admission that the Democrat Party is who we said that they are. The party of apartheid, right? Jim Crow, revocation of civil rights, the KKK, the Confederacy. So you're admitting all that when you say that they switch sides. You're admitting that you know that the Democrat Party has been the party that is hoodwinking us, trying to keep us down, pushing a whole bunch of lies about what we are and how we're displayed in the culture. But you're going to turn around and believe them when they told you that they switched sides? That don't make no sense, right? And then, you start to see the wheels starting to turn, right? But the trick is, man, is when you can catch them when they're in a position where they're not going to be ostracized by the herd, because ain't nobody want to step out of lockstep with the herd, because you know how it is in our culture, man. You just don't want to do that, get beat up.
Yeah.
Just a simple, you don't want to get beat up. But when sometimes when you can catch it, man, just like one on one, you can see it. The seed is planted, man, and sometimes that's a battle for that day one, just to plant that seed of rescue.
Yeah. What do you think about Trump and his impact on the black community since he's been in office?
Well, I mean, Trump, his impact on the black community, man, that started, man, decades ago. And I think some of that stuff is retained. I think there's still a remnant of the black community that knows that, all this stuff that you're saying about Trump, man. Remember back then, remember the awards that he was getting, remember the recognition that he was getting for the work that he was doing. Um, I think some of that stuff is still laid in there, and I don't think it's been erased completely. However, just like you said, earlier, man, we got to keep our faith, because I think even with Trump, even with conservatives, man, I think Trump, there's still a cult of personality element. Just like with Obama, people looking for Obama to make this change and stuff like that. Just the same way that people are looking to Trump, to make America great again. And don't get me wrong, man, because I'm happy to vote. I was happy to vote for him. I vote for him again. But the thing is, whether, with the economic policies, job policies and stuff like that, that's not what makes America great. What makes America great It's like, say, for instance, when we're thinking about, okay, we need a good job, we need good jobs, and we need good money, and stuff like that. Well, we see that there's a high divorce rate in America. And jobs, you see people with good jobs getting strung out on alcohol, strung out on drugs, committing suicide. Like I said, we got these divorces and stuff like that. So it's not a good job and it's not a good economy that makes America great. When we're talking about, there's more women in the workforce than there's been ever, right? All these women in the workforce. I'm like, oh, well, that's good, man, that there's jobs available for women. That's good. However, it ain't like a lot of women are going to work because they really want to. A lot of women are going to work because they have to. You know what a good economy looks like? A good economy is when a household can survive off of one income. That's what a good economy looks like. But when we're saying, yeah, look at how many women are in the workforce, I'm like, that's good, but at the same time, man, that's what he was elected for. He was elected, because he said, look, man, I can bring them jobs back. I can get this economy going. And he's doing what he said he would do, and the people are trying to put to work. The people are trying to put to work what he said he was going to do. And that's a good thing. But let's not get it twisted, man. That's jobs and money is not the whole thing, because we could still lose this republic even with a good job.
That's so true, man. I always say that, money can't buy happiness, but it's a good down payment.
It's a good down payment.
It's a good down payment, but there's something else there that has to fulfill you. And I think that again, it always comes back to God and religion. I think what makes America great and what just makes humanity great is the divine, our divine creator, God. And, politics flows downstream from culture, and our culture is what really drives the ideology and what ultimately turns into public policy. And what they've done, the left, Democrats, they've destroyed the nuclear family. Yeah. The nuclear family is what fundamentally holds society together, right? And those customs, cultures, traditions, and values that made America what it is now is being eroded. That's why they're focused more on culture than they are on policy, right? If it were just about policy, I mean, they support big government. They want welfare programs, but they don't really care about that. They want to destroy the fabric, right? That's why they're attacking all these institutions. Yeah. That's why, and I think it goes back to even probably before the party switch, right? The Great Society Act. I think there was a big push to get women out of the home, right? You get the dad out of the house, he's working all day. You get the woman out of the house, she's working, women's empowerment. And then you got the kids. Well, who's going to control the kids? Who's going to be with the kids? Most of the day, kids are spending time in school. What goes on at school? Indoctrination. And then indoctrination ultimately drives the culture with the influence. I see it all works together, right? It's hard to say it without even sounding like a conspiracy theorist, right? I know a lot of people in my audience, they get it, but the average liberal, they're like, what are you talking about? You sound like a nut. You sound like a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, it's a puzzle. Yeah. It all fits together. It's all part of a plan to destroy the nuclear family. So again, it comes back to evil. Where does that come from? Where does that ideology derive from? Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. These were a lot of people were Satanists. Aleister Crowley, those people were Satanists. And people like Hillary Clinton, who read the Rules for Radicals, she actually wrote her college thesis on it. And worshiped Margaret Sanger, said, oh, I admired her vision. Oh, what vision was that, Hillary? It's crazy. All the information is out there. Every bit of information we're talking about right now can be fact checked. You can search Google and fact check it. And that's why I know we're on the right side of history, because when you have facts and truth on your side, you don't have to duck and dodge and do anything. It stands alone. And I think that's why you have so much more confidence in the conservative mind, because it's just you're focused on what is. It's rooted in reality. Leftists, I feel like they have a lot more insecurity, and that's why you have all these outbursts like, everyone needs to accept me for being a brown zebra. That's what I identify as. It's like people are, they want attention. They're seeking attention. They're always trying to outsource their value placement, right? I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I feel like it's all just kind of part of the same thing. If they destroy the nuclear family, then it's easier to break it apart and, move people around like pawns on a chessboard. That's where we are now. That's why you have so many people in the streets protesting, oh, climate change, this and that. What do you think about climate change? Let's go there next. That's a good one.
Climate change, man, is it's that kind of, it's a self-redeeming movement. You know, these people and people who believe in climate change and global warming and all that sort of stuff, that comes out of definitely comes out of some trust issues. And just like you said earlier, man, it's like we have this thing where we have this thing for reality. Reality is like is the place where we want to be. We want to live in realville. Liberals, they're driven by imagination. That's their whole thing. Whether it's climate change, you got to imagine that there's this thing going on with the climate. From economic policy, all their worldview is imagination land. Economic policy, this whole healthcare thing, education, jobs, all imagination land. To your health, when it comes to the unborn, you got to imagine that kid ain't human. Everything that they believe is all imagination land. So even when it comes to climate change, and they also imagine that they can redeem themselves by how much they show they care about the environment. This is their redeeming value because they're busted up and broken people, and it's like a stack of merits for themselves. They're going to be able to do what it is that they do because they know, man. They know that their lifestyle is unclean. They know that what they believe is unclean. They know that their whole collectivist ideals somewhere internally, maybe it doesn't register up here, but they know that in order for what it is that they want, it takes covetousness to do that. To this collectivist idea that they have, they know they got to dig into somebody else's pocket to do that. Everything that it is that they think that they want. And because of that, subconsciously, it's like, I've got to redeem myself somehow. I got to do something good. The environment, we got to save the planet. We got to save the earth. And man, they're not worried about the world ending. They're not worried. It ain't about that. It ain't about, because, especially like when they're talking about, we got to save the planet for the next generation. What, the generation that you don't consider deserve to be born? We have a population problem, and you don't even consider the child in the womb human. Why would you care about children that aren't even born yet for the next generation? It's like you guys are talking in circles. So, but they're trying to redeem themselves, and this whole climate change is about that. I mean, it's a venue for that. These people have deep emotional problems that goes back. Sorry to sound flirty and all that sort of stuff, but this stuff goes back to their childhood. It has to do with their parents. It has to do with how they were educated. It has to do with the stuff that they're listening to through the news and entertainment media and stuff like that. All this stuff that they're inundated with jacks them all up, man. It gets them all jacked up, and things happen to them because their neighbor or the kids that they go to school with, they're jacked up too. And, between the peer pressure and the stuff that they're dealing with at school and dealing with at home, they need something to release their anger on, and they'll release it on people who don't agree with them on climate change, on sexual orientations. They'll take it out on Trump. Trump will be their scapegoat. And it's like, even the Bible talks about it. These people will gather together like a mob. And they'll be angry at stuff that they don't even know what the cause is. They don't even know. They don't even care. They just see people that they can be angry with, and they gravitate to that. Like I said, man, the Bible reads us from thousands and thousands of years ago, man. It's amazing, and the truth is right there. But, it's difficult to tell people the truth, whether it's climate change or, whether it's foreign policy or anything like that, because these people have been struck first and early by evil, as you put it. They've been struck. That influence is they already have a sentimental attachment to it. The school system, entertainment, they've already hit them with the lie, and when you try to get in there with the truth, they already have a sentimental attachment to their lie. And it's like trying to break through Callus, to try to get to them. But all we can do is keep trying, man. Find new inventive ways. That's the thing that we need, man. We need inventive and creative ways, because we're reasoning right now. I'd like to think that we're reasonable people, but trying to reason with them, that's a language that they don't understand. That's why we got to get innovative, man. We got to get creative and find the things that they're interested in, without being, unkosher per se, but try to find ways that they're interested in to connect with them, to be able to, just inject some reason, get that seed of reason into them,
Yeah, you're right. It is trying to like break through Callus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have yet to see that my strategy right now is working or not, but it is causing some internal dialogue with people. It's tripping them up. It's
Yeah.
really hard because they do respond so negatively when confronted with, information that counters what they believe. It's contradictory. Cognitive dissonance. They're like, what is this black guy doing here? It's not on my side. I go to these Trump rallies or these anti-Trump rallies, and I talk to people. Sometimes I expose the craziness because there's a lot of it out there. Let's just be real. But I do look for civil conversation with people, and I have a conversation with them, and I get to the root of why they're out there. I'm like, are you really out here because you don't want war with Iran? I mean, I'm sure you don't want war with Iran, but is that the reason you're here? Because we're not going to war with Iran. That's not happening. At the most recent one I was at, that's why I'm referencing Iran. Right. I'm like, this isn't happening. So let's get to the root cause of why you're here. It's Trump, right? It's Trump. Let's get to, like, they could paint this anything they want. They could say, this is about the climate. This is about woman's right to choose. It doesn't matter what you call it. You're going to have the same emotional attachment to it here. So why are you here? And then when I get to that and I dig up the root, then they start to push back, and then they start, oh, no. They try to like turn around and like try to get me to answer questions because it makes them uncomfortable when you try to pick at their brains. But then I'd like to think I'm planting a little seed, and maybe they go home and think about it, or maybe not. Maybe they just smear over it and they go back to whatever they were chanting before I was there. But it's so true that they put their minds on autopilot, and then they go out and act all sanctimonious about the climate. And then the way that they virtue signal about it, like they'll stand on the charred carcasses of koalas and kangaroos and talk about, oh my gosh, climate change. Everybody who disagrees with me is morally wrong. But then they completely ignore the monsters that set the fires that killed the koalas.
Right.
Instead, they're like, you don't care about koala bears because you don't support this climate change legislation that Congress is trying to, that's how they do it. They're like, if you cared about the climate, you would do that. I'm like, if you cared about the climate, you would say something about the people that are setting fires, killing animals. Right. So it's like, I actually care about that. I think it's bad. I think it's wrong. We can discuss climate change later, but can we talk about the arsonists who are killing the animals that you say you care about? The same thing with gun control. Right. There's not a single conservative that is happy whenever there's a mass shooting. Nobody that's pro Second Amendment is like, thank God for that. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We feel a great deal of emotion, but we respond with reason and logic. Right. And we also know, like, oh, here we go again. The Second Amendment is always now they got something else to club us with. Right. NRA, this and that. But it's like they come after it. Their whole argument is like, you don't care about those children. You don't care about these victims. And it's like, well, you don't care about a solution because all these places like Chicago, like California, have already done a lot of this gun control legislation, all these measures. They've done it and they've gotten reverse results. The gun crime increases. And here's why. Here's my argument for why we don't need less guns. If anything, we need more. Right. As soon as you lay that out for them, they start to go the other way, because when you make sense, it's obvious because they go the other direction. They try to change the subject. They're like, well, what about this, that, and the third? It's almost like facts are the antidote to it. Right. They can't handle it. It's
they're quite allergic. Yeah, they're quite allergic to facts.
They are.
Yeah, quite allergic to it. And what I think, once again, man, it comes back to that what they're hit with first. They have a sentimental attachment to it, and it's those trust issues. You're coming to them with the truth, and nobody wants, as the saying goes, man, it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. And when you're trying to tell them the truth, man, it's like that pride. That's where that pride comes in. And it's like, well, I already have my beliefs. Right. It's like, well, those aren't really your beliefs. You're more of a drone. You're just repeating the beliefs of somebody else. But that's fine. But let's say you think that they're yours. In your pride, you're not going to accept the worldview of somebody else. You don't want to assume to be educated by another person. You've got your beliefs and you're going to hold fast to that. And that's why in the Bible, the devil is depicted as a serpent. A serpent strikes quickly. He was in there quick. But he was in there really fast. And that's how liberals work. They're in there really fast to inundate people. And that's one of the biggest obstacles that we're up against, man. And And one of their biggest weapons when they strike quickly is we gotta get them with the race card. We gotta infect them, right, with the whole racial narrative. That's one of the reasons why we can come at them with logic and reason, but they're not gonna. It's difficult to get through that because they're already wired with this idea that those with conservative values are racist. So we can't listen to them. We can't listen to racists. But you've probably noticed it too, man. In whether it's in the Black community or Latino community, you'll find that a lot of their values actually side. We've known this for years. Side with more conservative values. The problem is that they don't want to be associated with conservative values because they've been programmed to be prejudiced against those that they assume are prejudiced. So we've been dealing with that for a long time. And one of the things that I've been trying to tell conservatives for a really long time, you got to take out their big gun. It can't just be, you're trying to reason with these policies. And it can't just be that, we're not racist. We're not racist. Like you're trying to do. And it's got to be more of it. It's got to be more of it. Finding inventive ways to let them know, because the people are angry. It's like, yeah, okay, Black folks, you got a right to be angry. Yeah, but you just need to know who to be angry at. You want to be angry? That Democrat Party over there? That's who you need to be angry at. And little by little, man, we're making strides. It's coming through. But it'd be nice to have an industry. It would be nice to have an industry because that's what the left has. The left has an industry, a machine, a big machine to push their lie, the race card, the sex card, the class card, and all that sort of stuff. We need a counter industry, to fight their lies, but right now you're part of the proto industry, man, getting out there to tell that truth, so, keep at it, man. We need you.
Yeah, you're right. They have a full industry. They've got everything from media, academia, entertainment. Mm-hmm. They've got the politicians, and with the Black community, it's really, really hard. It's happening. People are starting to wake up. I don't know that necessarily translates to more votes for Trump. I think it will be. I mean, let's be honest. There's more people that support Trump now than ever before. Yeah. So that's going to be some more Black people. But it's less about Black people supporting Trump and more about us waking up and seeing who has held us down from the beginning. Right. Like which people, which party really has held down the community. And, you said it right. Like most Black people are conservative, raised in the church, but there's a difference between being a conservative and a Republican. And when you talk to them, he said, like, you're a conservative, but I'm still going to vote Democrat. It's like, they don't connect it. Right. They're not connecting the values and the ideology and the beliefs with the policy. The policy is contrary to the values and the beliefs. And that's another reason. That's like visual evidence of how there was no party switch whatsoever. I'm like, okay, so explain Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, Philadelphia, Memphis, Tennessee, St. Louis, Missouri, all these Democrat strongholds that have been run for 50, 60 years, a lot of times by Black Democrats. Unfortunately, those are the worst. The worst cities are run by not just Democrats, Black Democrats. That's a whole nother story. But it's like, as soon as you have that kind of conversation with people and you say, like, look, they've been in power all this time and we're still voting for them. Why not try something different? I know Trump said it in so many words. What the hell do you have to lose? But it's kind of like, what do you have to lose? He's kind of got a point. You could say that you don't like him, but does he have a point? And I think that's where I've really made headway with people, especially in my family, just talking to people. I'm like, okay, so two things can be true at the same time. You can say Trump is bad. You can say you don't like his personality. You can say all these things, but you can also recognize that the other side is terrible, doesn't have your best interest in mind. And when it comes to the economy and the things that you care about that are most important to you, Trump's actually doing a good job. I mean, you could dislike him. You don't ever have to buy a MAGA hat, but you could also say, you know what? I think I will vote for him because I like what I see in my 401k and my job is doing well and everything else is going well. I say both of those things can be true, but you're voting your values, right? It's just like back in the day, before this so-called party switch, Black people were voting Democrat when the Klan was actually a part of it. It's still a part of it, but you get what I'm saying,
Hmm.
right? Because they voted their values. They were literally voting on the side with all of the racist people, but they didn't care because of some of the values. So at some point there was a disconnect. It's like I have these values, but I'm still going to vote this way just because. And I've even had family members say, you know what, I have actually questioned why do I vote Democrat? Why have I been voting Democrat all these years? I think what we're going to see is maybe not so much a huge increase for Trump, but just people not voting, which still
Mm.
effectively helps Trump, right? Because they need our vote. They need our
Yeah.
vote. Trump doesn't need the black vote. That's why I'm always laughing when people say, oh, he signed that prison reform just because he's pandering. I'm like, why? Why would he pander to 13% of the
13%.
population? You mean to tell me he's pandering to 13% of the population? They called him a racist. He's like, okay, I'm passing all this policy for black
Mm.
people specific policy. They're calling me a racist. And he's just like, okay, you call me a racist. It's not true. But he just goes on about his business,
Yeah.
right? Meanwhile, the Democrats are pandering. They're like, black people this and that, and we got to get more of this. It's all just talk. We know that. It's
Hmm.
all lip service.
Yep.
But it's they're not doing anything.
Mm.
Trump is getting this vote, and at the same time, black people are seeing the Democrats aren't doing anything. So I think we're just going to see them not vote at all or
Mm.
vote for Trump. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that? How the election will play out?
Well, one thing with Democrats, man, is that they know how delicious it is, to accuse people of stuff. They know how delicious it is to make people angry. And and it's once again, man, I go back to go back to the Bible, man. The serpent knows the formula. He knows how this works. I'm gonna get you to distrust somebody else. That's how I get you to trust me. And that's how Democrats work. They get you to distrust other people. Trump's a racist, Republicans are this, Republicans are that, and so on and so forth, which means that you can trust me by default. Um, it's one of those things where hopefully at this point that formula will only go so far. And black folks be like, hey, look, man, you guys have been promising us some stuff and we're not seeing it. But I can't get myself to vote for Trump because for some reason I can't shake this idea that he's a racist, or that he's not a racist, or whichever. And I don't want people thinking that I'm a fool. I don't want people to think that I'm a sellout. I don't want people thinking I'm an Uncle Tom. So I won't really say that I'm going to vote for Trump, but I will say out loud that I'm not sure I can see what these Democrats are doing. There's a possibility for that. And that brings something else to mind also, man. It's not just about Trump, but when it comes to voting Republican, um, does this mean that, is this going to be a new day where blacks are going to vote Republican? Well, throughout history, this has already happened. Republicans freed blacks from the Democrats, and what happened? Blacks went right back to the Democrat Party. It's the same thing that happened when the Israelites were freed from Egypt. They got led out, of Egypt. Let's say Moses was a Republican, leads them out of Egypt, and what did they want to do? They wanted to go right back to Egypt with the Democrats. So it's not a new thing. It happened before. It happened in our time. I mean, in America's history, it can happen again. And that's just, once again, it's another one of those things where the game has to be stepped up, to how we promote these values, not just the candidate, man. It can't be just all about Trump. And don't get me wrong, I'd be happy to vote for him again, but it's the conservative ideas, to really play on. We already got the door open, like we said, man. We already have like a lot of these values in mind. And it's like a lot of people don't have beef with Lincoln. I know liberals try to get in there and neo-Confederates, try to get in there and try to paint a different picture of Lincoln, that he didn't care about freeing the slaves and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, none of that is true. I know that they try to like pull up documents saying that Lincoln never cared about freeing slaves and all that sort of stuff. It's like, man, you didn't read the whole Lincoln. Right? You didn't check out all of what he said. But they'll try to say that, at least back then, that's where the Republicans were the liberals and the conservatives were the Democrats. Even they'll try to do the ideology switch thing. And even Lincoln put the squash on that. It's like, oh, you Democrats think that you're the conservatives. Well, let me educate you, right? And Lincoln put the squash on that and told us, like, no, you're not conservative at all. You're not adhering to what the founders had in mind. You guys are totally against the policies of old that guaranteed the rights of every human being. If you want to talk about who conservatives are, it's actually us. Lincoln claimed that. So, conservatism has always been a good fit for the Republican Party. The problem that we have with the Republican Party is deviance. Whereas Democrats, liberalism has always been the natural fit for them. It's always been, because what are they liberal with? They're liberal with taxing your money, spending your money, borrowing money. They're liberal with your rights. They're liberal with how they read the Constitution, which is why they took the liberties to make their own Constitution, to go to war against the U.S. Constitution. They're liberal with the Bible. Democrats are liberal with that and trying to say, hey, the Bible actually says that we can have slaves. Bible doesn't say anything like that. But that's what Democrats have always been. They've always taken these liberties with somebody else's rights. And today, man, there's got to be a way, and we're making strides, man. I think, we're making strides, but it's not just about making strides, man. It's about keeping them. We want to keep it, because we can lose it like that.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is, like you said, the deviance of the Republican Party, right? Because Republicans have led conservatives astray. They've gone AWOL. A lot of them are globalists. A lot of them have sold out. They don't hold the core values and principles. They oftentimes will campaign on one thing and then they'll do another when they're in office. And I think a lot of it has to do with the framework of the federal government and how there's no term limits on Congress. You think about a lot of these career politicians, ultimately you're going to become corrupt. Your only goal is to get reelected. But if you had term limits, you're going to adhere to those values. You're going to hold those to be true. You're going to be the person you campaigned to be. And because you have a limited time, you're going to probably do the right thing, because you can't get cozy. You can't kick your feet up and just collect a check, taxpayer funded check. But that's what has happened. It's rotten to the core. And I think that's where the whole term drain the swamp came from. I didn't understand that in 2016 when he got elected. I kind of did. I figured like, okay, there's corruption somewhere, drain the swamp. There's bad people somewhere. But now I understand the inner workings of it. A lot of it is on the Democrat side, most of it. But some of it's on the Republican side.
Sure.
And one thing that I've noticed, at least in the last couple of years, is there's a lot more Republicans retiring. You don't hear about Democrats retiring. Democrats literally die in office, right? I mean, right. I'm not saying this is going to happen to John Lewis, but I mean, it's going to happen, right? Elijah Cummings, Maxine Waters is 81 years old. Ooh. Nancy Pelosi's really old. I'm not saying there's no old Republicans, but I've seen a lot of Republicans that are not seeking re-election. They're not seeking public. Why? Why wouldn't they stay in office? I mean, they're getting taxpayer money and they got all these benefits, all the perks. There's no better position you can be in my opinion, than a politician, right? You get paid to lie to people and they're paying you. You can vote yourself a raise. Why wouldn't you keep that job forever? It makes you wonder why all these Republicans resigning and stepping down and retiring, and Democrats want to stay in power until they die.
And that's a hard one to deal with, man. And I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because don't get me wrong, man. I'm about them term limits, but when a person is they're going to step down. A lot of, I guess, one of the reasons that they stay in office, like Republicans, it's not compared to Democrats, but Republicans, if you have those seeking re-election, a lot of it is because, well, if I don't, who else is going to do it? Because it's not like another Republican instead, because Republican runs for office, they get their life ripped apart. It's like you got good people who will just get drugged through the mud by Democrats, and it's like, look, man, I won't step and do that. It's like, well, I guess I'll run again, because if I don't, this seat is going to be taken by a Democrat, and them Democrats be wanting the benefits, right? So it's like, what do we do? Because we do have a lot of reluctant, good people out there who would, man, I wouldn't mind doing something, but I ain't looking to have my life torn apart, by these people. So
yeah, I'm one of those people. Like, I've had people tell me, some of my subscribers, run for office. I hear that so often. They're like, run for office. You have to run for office. I just, I'm not saying I'm scared or anything, but it's like, you get your whole life ripped apart. You hit the nail on the head. They'll tear you apart. They'll make it, your life actually would probably not be the same again after that, because of the way that you are treated on your way to, and we saw it with Clarence Thomas, right? And especially as a black person, right? They'll tear you apart. So Yeah, we have to figure out how to connect the dots and get people, first of all, win back the culture, counter the culture is very hard because they have the media, they have entertainment, all these celebrities, Eminem putting out music videos and stuff talking about gun. We need
Yep.
gun control. It sounds silly, right? Like who trusts a celebrity? Who cares what they think? Plenty of people care what they
Plenty of
think.
people do. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's why they get retweets. The whole reason they get retweets is because people care what they think.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the things that drives me nuts, man. For conservatives, that's they underestimate the enemy too much, and that's something that's said in conservative circles, way too much. It's like, who cares what these Hollywood celebrities think? Like, lots of people do, and they are influencing a lot of America. Too much of it. It's like, I know that you guys think that you're a silent majority and all that sort of stuff, but don't underestimate the damage that a noisy minority can do. And that's the thing that we're needing. And as far as going to office, I hear you, man. I would get that all the time. It's a very nice thing that people say. It's like, man, why don't you run for office? Run for office. Thank you. I'm glad that you think that I would be a good representative, but I reckon it's not as easy as it looks. Because a lot of these people, I'm sure, go in there with really good intentions. I'm pretty sure that they think that they're really solid. But a lot of times these people go in there, thinking that they're eagles, and they turn out to be jive turkeys. I'm not so full of myself that I don't think that couldn't happen to me. But more importantly, though, man, it's like, for conservatives who we understand that, well, government isn't the solution, it's the problem. So why would I add to the problem by going into government work? It's like, no, that's not what's really needed to change things. Why is it that political office is the ideal place to be to change things? It's culture. Culture is what needs to be changed. This political representation that these folks want, man, is only sustainable with good cultural representation. We got to be solid in the culture. We got to make our stand in the culture. We're misrepresented in the culture. That's what we got. These people are out there telling people who we are. But where's our mediums? Where's our agency of conveyance to let people know that this is what we're on. This is what we're about. You guys want something to be angry about? These people over here. But it's got to be put in a way, to be able to capture their interest long enough to receive the truth. And that kind of stuff translates to office. We're governed by our consent, man. And people right now, they're not conditioned to consent to conservative governance. So what's the point of having a conservative a politician when the culture is conditioned to not consent to it? We can have our political victories, yeah, that's great, but the culture going crazy. We got a culture that's going crazy, man. People don't know which bathroom to pee in. That's what we're getting. We're getting a culture where kids are giving puberty blockers, man, because parents are deciding, well, I want a little girl now. Don't you want to be you want a little girl, don't you? It's like, and they're changing them up. People are going to school thinking that they're getting educated, and the only thing that they're not becoming more sophisticated or anything like that. All they're doing is coming up with better arguments to engage in animalistic behavior. They're basically well-educated cavemen. That's what we're getting, And if we want some good political representation, when people want people to go into office, it's like, look, man, that stuff's got to be changed in the culture. Then you might get some people in office that people will be more prepared to listen to when they got something good to say.
Yeah. Speaking of the candidates, who do you think is going to be the person that loses to Trump in 2020? Who's going to make it?
I like the way you put that, man. See, man, there's who I would. I have to get who I would like to see lose, compared to as opposed to who would actually be. If I could just say who I would like to see, it would be Bernie Sanders. I would like to see Bernie Sanders, have to concede that he didn't win. Who do I think it's going to be? Yeah, I'd have to toss that up between Biden and Sanders.
Yeah. For me, I think it's going to be Biden because he's the most, I don't know, sensible. That's hard to really say that, but compared to the other ones, he's the most sensible front runner. He's the one that could probably appeal to the voters in the Rust Belt and yada, yada, yada. But the person I want to see is Lizzie Warren. Oh my gosh, let's get Pocahontas out there because he can have so much fun with it. I don't think he can have as much fun with Bernie. I don't know. But
It's a different
Elizabeth
kind of fun.
Warren,
It's
it's
a
a different
different
kind
kind
of
of
fun.
fun.
It's different. But when you're talking about Elizabeth Warren and all just the liar that she is, you know she's gonna play that woman card. She already played it with Bernie Sanders, and you know it's gonna be too easy. And I just see her as a deer in headlights when they're on the debate stage. I can just see her. You know, she'll have her jabs here and there. I think
Right.
Biden would be funny too. But it's more because Biden is falling apart. That's right. He would be on the debate stage just saying all kind of stuff. Like he'd be veering off on this path. They're like, Biden, come back, come back, come back. Biden would destroy himself. Trump wouldn't have to do much work
Right.
because it'd be like low hanging fruit, just too easy. It's like you don't need to call that out, Trump. They can see what he's saying over there, and they're like, "What is he talking about?" Right? It'll make
It,
people feel a little more guilty about voting for him, maybe.
it should, it should, man. I know that's what it, but like when it plays out though, Biden will still probably be emboldened by his base. Like I'll give you an example. Did you catch the debate between Obama and Alan Keyes?
No, no. Back when Obama ran first term or second
Yeah,
term.
this was, I think it was a Senate race, and
Okay.
man, of course Alan Keyes spanked him, right? And you're not allowed to do that. That actually emboldened Obama's base, and of course he won, right? And it's just, it's the same thing with like Obama. Um, I remember, the first time he ran and the second time I ran and say, y'all be careful, man, because Obama, we can have our candidate beat him in the debate, sure, that's not the thing, but if you do that, you're gonna offend his base. They're not gonna see that Obama lost. They're just going to become more they're just going to be bitter about it, and it's going to make them more rebellious, and they're going to get behind Obama even more. So I'm like wondering, it's like, I wonder if that same dynamic could play out like with Obama, Biden, with Biden, the same,
Biden.
the same thing play out where it's like, because once again, it's about representation, right? Well, if Biden, if you want to say Biden, if
That's what
Biden
he
is
wants to be. That's what he wants to be.
right, yeah, so I'm not too far off. If as their representative, if Biden is up there, man, and he's representing them, well, the licks that Biden takes is a lick that they're taking, because it's not so much that they're going to take it as he's getting beat, but they're going to take it as an insult, and you're insulting Biden is an insult to them. So it's almost like they're not tuning in what Trump is saying. All they can see is it's like, oh, he's this racist who's talking down to us. Okay, well, we'll show him. It's kind of like that effect. People are weird like that, man. We're funny like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well,
It,
you got anything else? Any final thoughts? I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on we didn't cover that we could have. That would be like 2-3 hour conversation. But you got anything else?
well, man, it's just like we said, whether it's Biden, it's all this stuff that we can look at. Just like I said earlier, man, it's all imagination land. Biden, how Biden is able to get away with what he's getting. I mean, it's right there in black and white, man. It's right, and maybe that's the problem, man. Maybe that's the problem. We live in a culture where they want nice, bright colors and cinematography and stuff like that, and surround sound and all that sort of stuff to appeal to their senses. And we lay things out in black and white for them. Maybe that's just obsolete for them. That's why I'm saying we need a nice big sound system. We need that surround sound. We need them big pretty colors and all that good cinema. Maybe we need all that to catch their attention, because the black and white stuff, it's not enough interest there. So, but Biden, for him to be able to do what he's doing, getting away with what he's getting away with, and turn that around and say that it's Trump who's actually crooked. Elizabeth Warren, like you said, man, with the lies that she's able to get away with her cultural appropriation, she violated the she's not supposed to do that. It's bad enough that she didn't get to where she's getting with white privilege. She got to where she got to with red privilege. And people out there talking about white privilege, like, dude, she posed as something else, to do what she's doing. So, but she's gonna get away with what she's getting away with. Bernie Sanders, like, you think that this dude can actually handle being president? This dude couldn't even keep his podium from two girls. Two girls came up and took over his podium. You think he can protect America? It's like, seriously, when he's telling you that to save the planet, we should have more abortions. It's like, in black community, that means you. They're gonna be building them facilities in your neighborhood. So all this stuff that we can point out to them, and there's still people behind them. Man, that's like I said earlier, man, that's like supernaturally stupid. You know, this is some stuff on some spiritual demonic proportions that we're dealing with. So I recommend, well, I guess we need to be prayed up a little bit more. But anyway,
Amen to that. Amen to
right?
that. Well, tell the people where they can find you if they haven't already. I know some of my subscribers have reached out and said, you got to get this guy on. I want to see you guys collaborate. They're going to love this.
Thanks, man. And you know, actually, it would be fun. And maybe what we can do on this, since you like to do, I can't stand doing the man on the street stuff, man. I don't like doing that. My wife says you're really good at it. And they like it the couple of times that I did it on PJTV, but it's not my thing. But you sound like you really enjoy it, and you're killing it, man. So maybe one day we could collaborate, man. And you do some man on the street stuff, and I'll do a commentary on it, and you know that could probably be like really fun. So I hope that interests you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't know, man. And then my website is bronzeserpentmedia.com. My commentaries are the Zoloft. My anti-fuddy-duddy Bible study, the Zopium Den, is my Bible studies. And then there's my rock group, 20 Pound Sledge. All that stuff is found at bronzeserpentmedia.com.
Cool, cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the channel. This is a great conversation, man. We have great chemistry. You'll have to have me on your channel, you know, because, you know, with the YouTube, you know how they're doing us right now.
Yep,
we got to share subscribers, essentially, right? Like we recommend each other. That's what's happening right now is the YouTube community is coming together, and it's great. You know, I've been invited to several different live streams. I got some collaborations coming up that I'll be uploading, and I'm just looking forward to this year for that very reason, because it's less about growing the audience and more about connecting with people and, you know, sharing ideas and stuff like that, building pretty much a coalition, because that's how the truth is getting out. You said earlier, like we need our own like pillar to kind of voice our truth, and it's YouTube. And that's why they're cracking down, because the most popular videos, the most popular content creators happen to be conservative. And they know that their left recognize that they lost control of the narrative. So I'm looking forward to that in 2020, man. But thanks again for coming on. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, follow me on all the social media accounts, and I'll catch you in the next stream.